Dave, we're okay? We're all good? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And now call the regular City Council meeting of July 21st, 2026 to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll jump into the item 2, land acknowledgement. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Ohlone people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Ohlone elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Ohlone land, the land that Pinole sits upon their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Ohlone community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. All right, thank you. We're on to item 3 of the agenda, roll call and City Clerk's report. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you. Mayor Tave.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Sasai.
Here.
Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Here.
Councilmember Toms.
Here.
City Manager Kelly.
Here.
City Attorney Kasher.
Here.
Noting that Deputy Clerk Stone is absent this evening. Mayor and Council, the agenda was posted on Thursday, July 16th at 4:40 p.m. with all legally required notices. No written comments were received in advance of the meeting. I wanted to note for the public that the meeting minutes for the July 7th meeting will appear on the September 1st meeting agenda. And due to reductions in the city clerk budget, we will be transitioning to a more brief action style minute format. If you have any questions about that or access to meeting materials in general, please feel free to reach out to me. Does the council have any conflicts to report on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll jump into item 4, and that's convene to a closed session, conference with labor negotiators, Government Code 54957.6, and we're reconvening approximately 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Okay. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and reconvene to open session. Next item on the agenda, reportable action. No reportable action for closed session. We're going to go ahead and get to next item, citizens to be heard. Item 6, Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you. Rafael Menace.
Members of the public, good afternoon. Mayor, council, staff, members of the public. My name is Rafael Menace, a resident of Pinole. And this afternoon, I'd like to talk to you about two things. First, the rate of COVID-19 in the region surrounding Pinole, since we don't have direct wastewater data from Pinole's wastewater treatment plant, has been increasing. It's now at low levels in the closest wastewater sites and at very high levels in nearby sites in Alameda and Marin County. For the state of California as a whole, it's at a low level, and it's risen to levels last seen in November of last year. So I would encourage individuals who are immunocompromised, caring for those that are, or who wish to take precautions, to start wearing masks indoors, because the rate continues to increase since the last time that I've stated this and shows no particular signs of slowing down at the present time. Secondly, I'd like to invite any individuals who are interested to join me in a protest this Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon at the intersection of San Pablo and Tennant Avenues, protesting against, well, various issues going on in the country at the moment. 90 seconds is not really enough time to go into sufficient detail, so I'll let you fill in the issues as you see fit. Finally, since I've gotten a few inquiries from members of the public, I'd like to note that I am not going to be running for Pinole City Council this year, as members of my family are going to require increased levels of care for the next few months, and I would not be able to run a proper campaign that the city deserves while also providing the care that my family deserves. So just wanted to let people know that. Thank you.
Debbie Long.
Good evening. At your last meeting, there was a last call for anyone wishing to speak. An individual stood up but had yet to fill out a speaker card. She was told by the Mayor Pro Tem, Devin Murphy, that she was required to first fill out a speaker card. The speaker then asked if she could do it afterwards. Mayor Pro Tem Murphy said no, that before she could speak, she was required to fill out the speaker card. The person did so and then spoke. Tonight, I have passed out the information from the Ralph M. Brown Act that clearly states that requiring the public to fill out a speaker card is a violation of the Government Code Section 54954.3 of the Brown Act. Additionally, it can also be construed as a violation of the First Amendment and our right to free speech. Sadly, I shouldn't have to stand up here and school the Mayor Pro Tem about the Brown Act. I assume he has, along with the other council members, as well as the city clerk and city manager, they have all taken the required courses. Besides, your attorney is paid to inform you of the basics of the Brown Act. He should have stepped in to correct Mayor Pro Tem Murphy as he violated the speaker's rights. This is not the first time that Mayor Pro Tem has acted questionably under the Brown Act, but I hope it will be the last. And to continue, I find it disingenuous to not have the town hall meeting as promised on the grand jury report. The citizens deserve a full conversation between staff and council as to how we got here and what can be done. A simple "we agree with" recommendation is not giving adequate information nor allowing the public to engage with each issue. A structurally balanced budget is not balanced going forward when you are using one-time money. The council needs to follow through with a town hall meeting on priorities so that individuals can adequately understand what is going on through a sharing of the dialogue. Please quit hiding behind the dais and have a city town hall meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Just checking online to see if we have any speakers. It looks like no online speakers, so that concludes public comment. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, reports and communications. Item A, mayor's report. Just had a refreshing vacation. Glad to be back and back to work. So, yeah, that was my report. We'll move on to item B, 7B, mayor and council appointments. Looks like we don't have any. So we'll move on to 7C. Council committee reports and communications. We'll start with Councilmember Toms.
Okay, thank you. Since our last meeting at the end of or middle of July, I was able to give the proclamation to Rosemarie Catino to celebrate her 100th birthday. She sends her thanks to the council. She was really touched that she received that. I attended the mayor's conference as an audience member and was able to report on the ABAG General Assembly meeting, which I also attended in June. We did have a report at that time on the next cycle of RENA, and as far as the numbers that we would be assigned would be prorated the same amount of ratios that were in the 6th cycle housing element. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Toms. Councilmember Sasai.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you here. One thing I'll report out is that we will have our WCTAC, West Contra Costa Transportation Commission meeting coming up this Friday, July 24th at 8:30 a.m., happening at the El Cerrito Council Chambers City Hall. I encourage you all to be there and to provide your comments. Lots of great items, including our TFCA 40% fund, countywide call for projects, and our incentive work plan. So I encourage you all to show up. If you can't, virtually, you can leave public comment as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Sasai. Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Thank you. Just a couple of thank yous. One set of thank yous to staff who prepared and presented updates on the status of projects related to the wastewater treatment plant, and allowed our participation to be an informed one, and as well that we could actually have a meeting. So thank you for that. Director Elgindi, as well as Josh Binder, wastewater treatment plant manager, and Letitia Andreas, who helped us get through the meeting. The other thank you is to one of the businesses that recently opened an office here in Pinole, Travis Credit Union. I want to thank them for hosting or having available a shredding event so that residents and others in the area could come by and for no fee shred documents that would otherwise be considered confidential or private, and can rest assured that they were shredded in a way that allows for that. So that is a service that is available for a fee in a number of different businesses in Pinole and elsewhere. But having this credit union provided just down the road from us was very helpful. I got to participate, and also in turn shared the information with others, and found out that it was very helpful to have that service available, as many as residents tend to accumulate paper materials that otherwise accumulate over the years, and find it helpful to have an available service like that. So thank you to Branch Manager Michelle Ward, and we look forward to that continued involvement with that service as an option for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Martinez-Rubin. Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. This past month, I attended the June Contra Costa Mayor's Conference. We did have a presentation on the activities of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. I'm very thankful to the staff of that agency for all the information that was provided. I was also honored to be reappointed by my fellow colleagues to continue serving on the East Bay Economic Development Alliance. I did have the opportunity following that meeting to be a special guest at the San Francisco Business Times Corridors of Opportunity event, which focused on the I-80 corridor. The event brought together regional leaders to discuss economic development, infrastructure, workforce development, and business attraction through the corridor. Those conversations are directly relevant to Pinole because our city is a part of the I-80 corridor. By working collaboratively with our neighboring cities, we can better position Pinole to attract our investment and support local businesses, as well as create economic opportunities for our residents. So it was really, really great event. I'm glad to see all the partners come together for it. As part of my work with MCE, representing our city, I attended our MCE board meeting this month. During the meeting, we did approve our committee structure for our national CEO search process, as well as approving our a subcommittee for the response to the Marin County Civil Grand Jury report. And last but not least, we also adopted MCE's integrated resource plan. Every 2 years, we are responsible for adopting one of the most important planning documents MCE has, because it serves as a roadmap for how we meet our community's electricity needs over the coming years. The plan balances reliability, affordability, and of course, the commitment to reducing greenhouse gases needed to serve our customer base. So approving this plan, we essentially remain on track to deliver clean and reliable energy, while also ensuring that we are keeping affordability at the goal set of MCE, and thinking about future growth as well. Of course, the conversation doesn't stop. I wanted to personally invite the community, including our staff, but also residents who are listening, to MCE's upcoming community workshop and planning session on MCE Power Resources. The workshop will be held on Tuesday, August 25th from 4:30 to 6:30. Community input is really critical into shaping these long-term decisions, especially around power in our community. I wanted to encourage anyone interested in our region's clean energy future to attend, and the agenda packet and additional information will be live soon on MCE's website at mcecleanenergy.org. Furthermore, on the economic development front, I'm really excited to, first, I attended the Green Empowerment Zone meeting last week. I'm excited that the Green Empowerment Zone did approve a letter of support that included the city of Pinole to be a part of Opportunity Zone's 2.0 initiative, which seeks to build on the success of the original federal Opportunity Zone program by encouraging investment in our communities. I'm also excited to see that our city staff also submitted a letter of support on behalf of our city. So looking forward to seeing what comes out of that opportunity. And last but not least, there was a coalition of local electeds from across the region who signed a letter of support of Senate Bill 954, which is legislation that is also authored by our state senator, Jesse Edeguine, that would strengthen California's approach to regional economic development, really making sure that local governments, economic development organizations, and industry are all working together and providing resources for our local cities around advanced manufacturing. Definitely just want to encourage residents to follow that bill and also reach out to our senator. And if you are in support, it would certainly help our city. Again, that bill is Senate Bill 954. And it's, again, something that our Green Empowerment Zone has been talking about, but also the state of California will be talking about in the next couple of weeks. So please make your voices heard. Last but not least, I look forward to residents continuing your input around the city's AI policy. I do know that we have a survey out, so if you are interested in how our city moves, or even just wants to ask questions about how our city moves around AI, I really want to encourage residents to continue providing your input, sending your ideas, your questions, your concerns as a part of this process. We did, as a council, decide that we wanted that to be an open process so that we can get as many stakeholders and partners involved in the planning of our AI policy as possible. So I wanted to encourage residents to continue, go online, pinole.gov. Our staff has done a wonderful job in ensuring that we have all ways for you to participate in that, in the approval of the adoption of that plan. So thank you again. That does conclude my report. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, so we'll move to item 7C. 7D, council request for future agenda items. Okay, Councilmember Sasai.
Thank you, Mayor. So last Friday, I had the opportunity to join the striking workers, ILWU Local 6 in Crockett, right next door to us, and the opportunity to learn and listen from them about the problems that they're facing, and they've been on strike for quite a couple of weeks here. And so really good to hear from them, and also learn, unfortunately, that a lot of the folks who are striking are incredibly impacted, but also there are quite a few folks who are workers who live in the city of Pinole as well. I want to thank City Manager Kelly for discussing with me yesterday in advance, but I wanted to move that the City Council consider and adopt a formal resolution and letter of support expressing solidarity with the members of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 6 and the striking workers at C&H Sugar Refinery in Crockett, recognizing the importance of collective bargaining and urging a fair, equitable, and immediate resolution that prioritizes the need of the workers there.
Okay, so we have a request. We have for a future agenda item. So there's a
I'm happy
motion.
to second.
Okay, so sorry. Motion, Councilmember Sasai, second, Mayor Pro Tem Murphy. All those in favor? Or Mayor, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councilmember Toms?
Yes, but I want to qualify that if there's a settlement, that we wouldn't need to have it in September, because we're not meeting for another month.
Agreed.
Councilmember Martinez Rubin?
I'm not sure if there, anything needs to happen after Councilmember Tom's comment. Any
Oh.
modification to the,
Well, I just want to make sure this is to go ahead and have something drafted up and brought back to council for a review. So at that time, we'd probably want to make edits or any suggestions at that point.
Right, and my point is, we're not going to meet for another 6 weeks or so. Hopefully, it will
gets
be resolved, so just kind of keep that in the back, that we wouldn't need to have it if it gets resolved.
Good thought. In the worst case scenario, unfortunately, if you have to review it, thank you for the comments there.
So so you accept the amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. And then Councilmember Martinez Rubin?
yes.
Councilmember Sasai?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Tave?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And not a formal motion, but I just want to flag, I know we voted on a resolution letter of support for an assembly bill by Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan regarding 3D printed firearms. I'm not sure if staff has been checking the status of that. I believe it's in the Senate and going to Appropriations Committee, so it would be great to, at some point, get that back to council for review. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Sasai. Any other future agenda items? Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to move to direct staff to place on a future city council agenda in September, discussion and possible action regarding the city's membership in professional associations and organizations. I'd like staff to provide so that council can review a cost-benefit analysis as well as funding options for each membership we've had in 2015-2016 budget, with recommendations on which memberships should be maintained, reinstated, or discontinued for the current fiscal year.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, motion, Mayor Pro Tem
And
Murphy, second, Councilmember Sasai. Looks like
I
Mayor
just
Tom,
have a-
or Councilmember Tom.
Yeah, I just have a question. Didn't we already do that through our budget?
We didn't have a cost-benefit analysis of anything. I think most of us just agreed on a budget, so we should probably, well, that's the offer I have as a motion, is to review that.
And that was for September.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, and second. Is there a question, Councilmember Sasai? No? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Councilmember Toms?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez Rubin?
No.
Councilmember Sasai?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Yes.
And Mayor Tave?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, any other future agenda items? Right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to City Manager report. City Manager Kelly, please, you go ahead.
Good evening. So the last couple of weeks, I'm still, thank you for City Council members, Mayor Pro Tem Murphy, Councilmember Toms, Councilmember Martinez Rubens for taking me around and introducing me to people. I know the other two, you were on vacation and we'll have that opportunity. I've also had the opportunity to meet with residents and go on walking tours and driving tours, and I will continue to do that. This weekend, I attended the Pinole Creek cleanup by the library and with the Friends of the Pinole Creek watershed, and We picked up over 100 pounds of garbage, and so it's very gratifying. I know it'll come back, but it still was very gratifying. With community services, with the summer camp program, it has seen significant improvement. In 2024, the enrollment averaged 12 to 17 participants weekly. Through focused revitalization efforts and expanded offerings in 2026, the enrollment has maxed out at 40 participants, with an additional 10 to 17 participants on weekly wait list. This growth reflects a strong community interest and demonstrates the value in our community service programs during the summer. Just as a reminder, as temperatures are rising, the senior center is a cooling center. Just to remind, I think community services in our city will be putting out those reminders via social media, the website, just to remind folks as temperatures are rising. The police department has an annual backpack giveaway that will be on August 13th. They are seeking donations from Target and will be sending an email to city employees this week to donate school supplies and items for backpacks, and I know they will be advertising the event shortly. I have received a lot of emails and from residents about the sewer lateral program. I know council members have been receiving information too, or receiving complaints or clarifications. The month of August, I'll be reviewing the sewer lateral compliance policies, be meeting with the wastewater department, understanding the infiltration and inflow that is happening. I know a couple of city council members that were just at that committee meeting, understanding what has the city required, seeing if those policies still make sense, at the same time protecting our wastewater treatment program, and then also look at programs that we're doing to offset costs. I know right now we have a rebate program, but are there some other alternatives that we can look into to help offset these costs, whether it is partnering with an insurance company that can offer low-cost insurance to help replace sewer laterals, whether we can establish a revolving fund. Not sure if we can, but in the month of August, we'll spend some time looking at the program to come back and present a proposal or just recommendations to the city council in September. In the meantime, we're going to beef up our communications around the rebate program. I believe social media posts have gone out already to give people information on how to access the rebate program. In addition, we're making sure the website link is accurate, and we're going to be proactively sending out information in this next week. Just as a reminder, the Active Transportation Plan Workshop is this Thursday, July 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. It's at the Public Safety Building in the Alex Clark Room, which is located at 880 Tennant Avenue. And this meeting has been relocated from the community room. I just want to also, I don't think the mayor discussed it, that we're asking to continue the item on the agenda, the update on the public, the capital projects, maintenance operations, and public works update. Unfortunately, Director El Gundy is not here tonight to make that presentation, but we would like to continue it.
Okay.
And that's my report.
All right. Thank you, City Manager Kelly. We'll move on to Attorney Casher.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report this evening.
All right. Moving on to item 8A, proclamations. We have Bastille Day. All right. Everybody, if the council will join me in the proclamation. Bastille Day, July 14th, 2026. Whereas on July 14th, 1789, the people of France stormed the Bastille prison in Paris, marking the beginning of their historic struggle against tyranny. And whereas shortly thereafter, the National Assembly of France approved the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the citizen, affirming that ignorance, neglect, or contempt of human rights are the sole causes of public misfortunes. and establishing principles of individual liberty, and
Whereas the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, adopted the same year the United States approved its Bill of Rights, shared foundational themes including freedom of religion, freedom of the press, security in one's property and person, and due process in courts of law, and
Whereas these documents proclaim the inviolability of human rights on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean and have continued to inspire generations in their efforts to protect democratic values and uphold the dignity of all people. And
Whereas in 2026, the world recognizes the 75th anniversary of the Council of Europe, an international organization dedicated to promoting human rights, democratic governance, and cultural cooperation, values that echo the spirit of Bastille Day and reinforce the global importance of liberty and justice, and
Whereas the City of Pinole remains committed to strengthening civic engagement, celebrating cultural heritage, and supporting efforts that advance freedom, equality, and democratic participation. And whereas the City of Pinole is dedicated to appreciating and honoring diversity and the heritage of all of its residents.
now therefore I, Anthony Tave, Mayor of the City of Pinole, County of Contra Costa, State of California, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim July 14th, 2026 as Bastille Day and call upon all people to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And I urge them to renew their support for the just aspirations of all peoples who seek freedom and self-determination. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8B, presentations. We have an update on the capital plan, which we are moving to,
Mayor, I'll move to continue item 8B1 to the next meeting or to a meeting following this
In
one.
September is good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll second.
okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Toms.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez Rubin.
yes?
Councilmember Sasai.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Mayor Tave.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving to item 9, consent calendar. Do we have any public comment on consent calendar?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just check our online. Looks like we don't have anything online, and I do not believe we have any in person.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Toms, second by Sasai.
Thank you. Councilmember Toms.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez Rubin.
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Mayor Tave.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item, excuse me, item 10, public hearings. So we have item 10A.
I'm sorry. Oh,
City manager.
yes. I'm still getting used to the
Yeah, yeah.
swing up here. All right.
Believe it or not, me too.
Yes. All right. We will have Matt Brown, our new director of the Capital Improvement Programs, kick off this presentation. And Joe Bingham is also in the audience to jump in if needed. Go right ahead. The floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Excuse me.
Council members,
Excuse me, Matt. If I can have you pull your mic up just a little so they can
Just
hear you.
a
at home.
little.
Yes,
Perfect.
perfect.
is
Thank
that
you.
better?
That's better. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Okay. So the lighting, the landscape and lighting assessment district, this is the report to give us an update on the fees. Next slide. Okay, the district was formed in 2008. It was formed in compliance with the special districts protocol set by the state in 1972. And the district is located on Pinole Valley Road. There's 2 zones. The first zone is north of the freeway on Pinole Valley Road, and the second zone is south of the freeway. And the zones cover certain elements: traffic signals, street lights, median landscaping, irrigation, electricity, graffiti removal, weed control and abatement. So I think you've all been exposed to this before, but just moving on. Next slide. So the Zone A, which is north of Highway 80, there are 8 parcels that contribute to this. Approximately 17,000 square feet of landscape, irrigation system and 2 controllers, 10 poles and 14 streetlights, 2.5 traffic signals, and litter abatement. Next slide. Zone B, south of Highway 80, basically from the freeway down to where 7-Eleven is and Red Onion, basically that area, commercial. 10 parcels, approximately 18,500 square feet of landscaping, irrigation systems, 12 poles and 20 streetlights, 1.5 traffic signals, and a slightly larger litter abatement area. So of the 2 zones, Zone B is the larger zone. Next slide. Okay, so fees are based off of the zone size and the contribution. Right now, the assessable cost you can see for Zone A is almost $40,000, and for Zone B is approximately $45,500. The number of accessible units, this is how in the report we define the area that each parcel pays. The accessible units in Zone A is 52, and then Zone B 49.9, so essentially 50. And then the rate is defined per the accessible units. That's done by calculation in the report. And so the Zone A pays a little bit less than Zone B, but that makes sense because Zone B is the larger zone. And that rate is basically programmed with an escalator that's based on the consumer price index. So theoretically, we won't be in a situation where we have an assessment that was based 20 years ago that never catches up with where we are now. Because it's either based on the consumer price index or 2%, whichever is greater. So that's why you see a jump between you'll see a jump in the report of different years that's based on either that CPI index or a 2% increase. So that's why the rate keeps growing and has grown since 2008. So it's reflective of the cost that we incur. So the maximum assessment rate for this round for Zone A will be $699.96, and the maximum for Zone B will be $660.80. Next slide. So what staff is asking council to do tonight is 1, to approve the assessment report, 2, approve the assessment amounts, and 3, provide us permission to order the assessment amounts and have the county levy those fees.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Any questions? Next slide, I think, is questions and answers. So
we'll take any questions from council before we open the public hearing. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, followed by Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Yes. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Brown. Thank you. Welcome to the chambers as you have been, and thank you for your presentation. One of the questions I actually had for you and staff is, we've had this presentation similarly every year annually as we report back to the assessor's office and approve the assessment amounts. Something that's come up in the past that I just wanted to give a flag for you and your team on is undergrounding, PG&E's undergrounding of some of those light poles. I'm not sure, I'm sorry, the electricity poles. I'm not sure if there's an update from staff on that, but I just wanted to ask if there was an update, and if there's not currently an update, can you all provide one via email to the council at a future date?
yeah, I'm not sure at this moment, but I will check and get back to you on that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Hello, Mr. Brown. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Simple question. There are statements about 1.5 traffic signals, and I've asked this before. Can you please clarify for us? I think you know my
Actually,
question.
Joe, do you think, can you clarify that?
Like the half signal?
Yes, what is the half signal? I believe it has to do with, well, you let us know. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember. I believe that's referring to the shared responsibility of the Caltrans signals at 80, because we have one signal in each zone. Actually, pardon me. Oh, I know what now I know what the half is. It's the entrance to Kaiser and Sprouts. Those are private driveways, and those aren't considered full signals. The roadway is considered a full signal, but the private driveways are a convenience for the parking lots in order to meter traffic appropriately.
Thank you. And is there also shared responsibility with Caltrans for those if they're on private property?
No, Caltrans only services the traffic signals at the on and off ramp location.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
Okay, seeing no other questions from council, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have an online commenter, Richard Kossel. Oh. And let me just get him connected. Okay, Mr. Kossel, can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Fantastic. So these zones specifically exclude the on-ramp and off-ramps for I-80. As we know, that's Caltrans' responsibility. But I'm going to give our new city manager a fantastic win if she's able to do this, and that is to negotiate with Caltrans delegated maintenance agreements. It is possible to actually have the city take responsibility for those spaces, the on-ramps and off-ramps, for maintenance, trash removal, and graffiti removal. In fact, it could be in the city's best interest if we did that, not just to Pinole Valley Road, but to our other associated off-ramps and on-ramps. And there are real-world examples of this. Santa Ana, Caltrans reimburses up to $400,000 over a 2-year period for this. Riverside, up to $400,000 over a 2-year period for this. San Diego, up to $400,000, a 1-year pilot for this. So it is possible that the city can assume responsibility for the maintenance, cleaning, because right now it's very dirty. There's trash all over the place. And I bet that the citizens of Pinole would really appreciate it if our city manager, our new city manager, is able to actually make this negotiation and clean up the area. They would really appreciate that. I hope that she's able to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. The next speaker is Anthony Vosbrink. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name's Anthony Vosbrink, senior citizen, longtime taxpayer of Pinole, over 50 years, living in Pinole Valley. With regard to the last gentleman, I think you need to follow up on that and take his comment seriously, and to have the city manager investigate what that would involve, because it's long overdue that we've been having serious issues back and forth between Caltrans, Public Works Department, on where their boundaries lie. Their boundaries, physical boundaries, and business boundaries, as far as where draw the lines, you know, put some dotted lines out there. We don't know where the street maintenance begins and ends with regard to city responsibility versus Caltrans. Case in point, there's major potholes all under the freeway now there at that Pinole Valley I-80 intersection, and even 10 to 20 yards on each side of the freeway, there are still potholes. And when someone comes out to do the potholes, whether it's the city or Caltrans, it usually takes an arm and a leg and pulling teeth to get them to do it. They do pardon my French, they do a half-assed job. You know, they fill one side or 2 or 3 potholes, but if you go up another 10 yards or across to the on-ramp or off-ramp, there are half a dozen more potholes. There are more potholes to be taken care of, but it's like they don't have 8 hours in a day or maybe banking hours, 5 hours to fill a few more potholes, and the same thing with the landscaping. And that would clear that up too, because they only landscape one section of the on-ramp or one section of the off-ramp, but they don't do the opposite adjoining side, which runs parallel with the 4 on-ramps and off-ramps we have over there. And half of the time, like even right now, you can see it's not done properly. We have litter there on one side or tall weeds, and the other side got a haircut and a trim down, and the same goes for potholes. And that would also enable the city of Pinole to widen without Caltrans permission and blowing every other reason to fix up that major intersection congested corridor there coming down Pinole Valley Road before school, after school, and during business hours, that people get backed up all the way to the to the creek, to the library sometimes, waiting for the light to change because they can't go forward. And I suggested they do not a study, just do it. That they put another split arrow there in the right-hand lane and encourage the traffic to go through on a green light and not to stop up all the traffic there and have people emit carbon emissions, and put another off-ramp right below Jack in the Box. So we lose part of the garden club's landscaping. But we need another on-ramp, on-ramp over there going to her.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. We have an iPhone connected. If you could please state your name for the record.
My name is Stephen Tilton.
Thank you, Mr. Tilton. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'll try to keep it in 3 minutes. So first of all, let me say a new day has dawned, and we have a dynamic and engaged city manager. I want to thank City Manager Kelly for walking the city with me last Monday for an hour and a half in the sun. We walked everywhere. We walked through, oh my goodness, Fernandez Park, San Pablo Avenue. We met business owners. I showed her areas where there's been graffiti, areas where the city's done a great job of cutting trees. We walked through the Faria House area. I mean, just everywhere. I could not believe how, well, I should have already known because she's a great dynamic person, but just a great person to talk to and a great listener. And many things I brought up, she already knew. So I kudos for your homework, city manager. And I look forward to other citizens walking the city with you. And I'm sure they'll ask like I did and they'll be received. And good job. And I want to move on to a few more things. Real quick, the city, please aggressively support small businesses. They're always being started up. Council members, you go to many events.
Excuse me, Mr. Tilton, I just wanted to remind you that we're taking a comment on the LAD item. Is that the one you wish to speak on right now?
Oh, goodness. Do I need to come back later?
We have a second citizens to be heard at it's the very last item of the agenda. You could
I appreciate that. I will come back later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
That concludes public comment. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any questions.
I'd like to move that we adopt the resolution to approve the engineer's report containing the annual assessments for Pinole Valley Road Landscape and Lighting Assessment District for fiscal year 26-27, and order the assessment amounts to be submitted to the county assessor for placement on the secured property tax roll for collection.
I'll second that.
Motion by Toms, second by Martinez-Rubin. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Toms?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez-Rubin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Tave?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we have another public hearing, item B, user and regulatory fee updates.
Thank you, council members. I have Markeisha Gilroy, who will give an update on the user fee study.
Good evening, everyone. Before the presentation, I'd like to provide a brief introduction to this item. As part of the city's ongoing fiscal management and cost recovery, staff periodically conducts a comprehensive review of the city's user fees. The last one was conducted in 2022, so we are on schedule for the updated fee study, which is being presented here tonight. The purpose of this review was to evaluate existing fees, ensure they reflect the current cost of providing services, and identify any recommended updates, which will be reflected in the master fee schedule. This evening, our consultant will summarize the analysis and recommendations as a result of the cost of services study and highlight the proposed changes to the master fee schedule. And following the presentation, staff and the consultant will be available for any questions. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our consultant, Terry Madsen of ClearSource Financial Consulting. And he is joining us remotely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you this evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. And then City Clerk, I'll just say next slide when it's time. Does that work for you?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as mentioned, my name's Terry Madsen. I'm here to present the sort of conclusions from the user and regulatory fee study that the city is in the final stages of. And I'm going to walk you through about 20 slides this evening. The first half of the presentation will be linked to just background information, and the next half of the presentation will be linked specifically to Pinole. Next slide, please. So we do this work for communities throughout the state. We've served Pinole in the past, and what you're undertaking is common to municipalities. Next slide. One more time, please. As we think about it as council members and sort of policymakers, when we think about our broad pools of revenue and uses of resources, what we consistently see is communities using their general tax revenues predominantly to fund services that provide broad benefit. So we would think of these as public works services, public safety services, park maintenance type services, where we say, you know, across the spectrum of Pinole, people benefit from access to these services. And so that is where we typically direct our tax dollars. When we see a direct receiver of service, we typically look for a direct cost recovery. And most of the time we think of that as the most common form of like direct receipt of service would be like, you know, water rates. If I use less water, I pay less in water rates and so forth. But in the world that we're discussing this evening, the similar concept applies where we say occasionally Pinole provides sort of discrete services that we would call user and regulatory fee services. Most commonly, these would be like permit review, permit issuance, and so forth. Those types of services where we see a direct receiver of service, we look to fee-related cost recovery to, by definition, free up the general fund to be used to provide some other city service. Next slide, please. This topic has been in front of the City Council this is the third time you're seeing this item this year. For timing purposes, this has been brought to Council in 3 phases to accommodate department needs. The first time you saw it was in February 2026, and that was specific to community services and recreation fees that get published seasonally and so forth. The second time you saw it was in March 2026. That was specific to adoption of fees for your rental housing inspection program. And now this evening's item is sort of the conclusion of the process, and it addresses the remainder of what we consider your user and regulatory fees. So like planning fees, engineering fees, building fees, and so forth. I just want to highlight for the council and for any interested members of the public what is not being examined or proposed for update as part of this process. So this process and this evening's item makes no consideration of adjustments to taxes, to assessments, to utility rates, or to what we call development impact fees that sort of are linked to mitigating the infrastructure impacts linked to new development. So none of those areas are being considered as part of this item. And those first few taxes, assessments, utility rates, those are what we most commonly think of as residents and businesses in Pinole. This item this evening is linked to specific periodic requests for service. Next slide, please. As Markeisha mentioned, you at Pinole perform these types of studies on an ongoing basis. You only perform this type of sort of intensive, comprehensive study every few years. That is consistent with other municipalities. And what you do is in the in-between years, you typically apply an inflationary adjustment to the fees that are in place just to account for that typical inflationary environment that you're likely to encounter. And then in the comprehensive study year, that every third year you do a recalibration based on your current organizational practices and so forth. Next slide. So the reason Pinole does this every few years and cities throughout Contra Costa County in California do this the same way as you is primarily to comply with legal requirements. Because we're dealing with fees, we are sort of informed by the California Constitution and the California Government Code in terms of what is a fee and how we constitute fees, how we calculate cost of service. And really the main idea is we are not in the for-profit business. A fee is eligible to recover up to the city's cost of service, but we don't want to recover more than that. So that's the primary legal requirement we want to comply with. I highlighted that idea that when Pinole provides these services, there is a cost to Pinole. And so we can either recover that cost from the receiver of service or fund that cost from broad general fund tax dollars. And so when a city sets fees to recover its cost, it is by definition freeing up those general fund tax dollars to be used for some other source. And I think this final bullet is important to the city council. That idea that when we recover a cost of service, we really position Pinole to be able to continue to meet the service level expectation of the community. So it positions us to be able to continue with staffing and so forth that aligns to service level expectations. Next slide. I mentioned this idea of legislative guidance driving us. There's two primary points of guidance. One is the idea of cost of service. And the big idea here is that we want to allocate costs to the various services based on effort or complexity. So something that is more intensive in nature would have a higher cost of service associated with it and potentially a higher fee than something that is lower in intensity, takes less staff time and so forth. So that's the cost of service principle. And then from a cost recovery principle, that's the second principle that we follow, the idea that Pinole can set fees up to its cost of service, but we don't want to set fees beyond that. Then we move into the realm of taxation. Next slide. And everything you've heard up to this point is really common to municipalities. What we're going to talk about in this last handful of slides is what we are seeing specifically in Pinole and then what we're asking the city council to consider. So now we'll move into Pinole specific. Next slide, please. So when we think about you as a council and the number of items on your typical council agendas and all the things you have to consider, we sort of say to ourselves, what we want to do is provide the council with all of the information needed to make their decisions. And so the staff report identifies every fee in your schedule and the proposed change to every fee. This gives you a sort of a 30,000 foot picture, and it says, look, your schedule has hundreds of fees. Again, that is common to municipalities because you're trying to contemplate the various scenarios that can come through the door. Some of them may occur frequently, some of them may occur infrequently, but based on California Building Code, Fire Code, Pinole Municipal Code, and so forth, you want to have fees in place to recover the cost of these services. So from a big picture perspective, if we grouped those 232 fees into broad groups, what we would say is there are 2 fees that are proposed to decrease. There are about 30% of your fees are proposed to remain unchanged. 59% of your fees are proposed to increase. 8% of your fees, it's hard to say what they will do because it depends on specific criteria. So you may have like an A, B, C scenario where you get a false alarm response for no charge up to 2 responses, and then each additional response there's a charge, and that might increase in this study, but the no charge for the first 2 remains unchanged. So that's the scenario where it depends on the criteria what happens. There's 1 fee that's proposed to be restructured. We can talk through that. It's the conditional use permit fee. And then there are 6 new fees proposed, and we want to highlight those for council. Next slide, please. So when we think about the fees that are proposed to either remain unchanged or decrease, that's about 30% of your schedule. And they are primarily the fees that are limited by the state of California, or they're even adopted by the state of California and just in your schedule for documentation purposes. Additionally, your fee schedule does include a list of business license taxes, and those taxes adjust based on Pinole Municipal Code at a completely separate time, so there's no change proposed to those as part of this action. So that's the drivers of that. Next slide, please. For the fees that are proposed to increase, this is about 59% of your fees. This is common amongst what we would see from agency to agency because it's been several years since your last study. You've likely experienced changes in your insurance-related costs, utility costs, service supplies costs, and so forth. So we do frequently see from study to study this idea that it's not unreasonable to assume that your fees would increase. So in terms of the fees that are proposed to increase, what we see is they are primarily for regulatory services. And for regulatory services, we frequently see cities target full cost recovery. An example of a regulatory service would be like building permit, plan review, building permit processing, building permit issuance, and so forth. And the idea there is that if I sort of I decide to add square footage to my home or decide to do some new residential construction or new commercial construction even and so forth, I am a direct receiver of service and I am a beneficiary of those services in terms of enhanced property values, enjoyment of the new square footage or the remodel or whatever it might be. And then finally, this idea that we identified that there is a cost to Pinole here of providing these regulatory services. Those regulations are outlined in the California Building Code and the California Fire Code and so forth. And so that regulation needs to occur. There is a cost to that regulation. If we don't recover it from the person that is performing the construction or the business is performing the construction, then by definition, the other residents and businesses of Pinole are paying for a portion of that regulation through just general tax dollars. Next slide. In terms of fees that vary based on project criteria, we mentioned there's about 8% of them, and I talked about the idea that it's going to depend on what service is provided, whether the fee decreases, remains unchanged, or increases, but it's a small percentage of those fees. There is the 1 fee that's proposed to be restructured. It's the conditional use permit. We receive feedback from the planning team. And essentially, your conditional use permit as it exists today is 1 base fee. It's sort of a one-size-fits-all fee. If I need a conditional use permit, there is a fee for service. If somebody else needs a conditional use permit, there is the same fee for service, but they might be sort of materially different in terms of complexity or in terms of community goals and values that we're trying to think through. So the proposed fee is restructured from a one-size-fits-all to a tiered fee that thinks about complexity and some broader community goals and values. Next slide. We're almost to the end of this presentation. Here's the new fees. There are 6 of them. We want to highlight them and specifically talk through this business license application review fee. One of our tasks as a outside service provider is really to at least identify potential fees for service and then help the city council understand what it costs to provide those services, and then you can make a decision about whether you'd like to adopt these fees or not. So 6 new fees proposed. The first is in the clerk world, and this is what we commonly see. In the clerk world, if somebody needs access to information, they can receive that information for no charge via like a link to it through an email or so forth. But if the city needs to supply like a flash drive to provide that information, cities just simply recover the cost of that digital device. And we want to use city supplied devices rather than, private citizen supplied devices, just to protect the city's infrastructure assets and so forth. So that's the idea there. I'm gonna skip the business license application review because we'll conclude with that one. The next 2 are linked to planning. There's been changes in state legislation that are identified commonly as SB 9. And so SB 9 didn't exist at the time of the last study. It exists now, so the staff is just wanting to call out a specific fee for service to comply with that. If an applicant requests zoning code interpretations, that is allowable in your municipal code, and now you would just have an offsetting fee for that service. And then finally, on the code enforcement side, occasionally persons interacting with code enforcement are requesting actual permit-related research from staff. And so it's just the idea of cost recovery for that permit-related research. And then finally, same thing on the code enforcement side. If somebody's requesting additional meetings with code enforcement after that initial meeting, just the idea of understanding staff time, resource constraints and so forth, and just a cost recovery for that. Finally, I'll jump back to this business license application review fee. This is a fee that we've identified as a potential fee, but it might be something that the Pinole City Council would prefer to consider as part of a broader discussion regarding just business license taxes in general. But the idea here is that Pinole has an existing business license tax. So if I want to do business in Pinole, I have a tax rate that applies, and that is outlined in the Pinole Municipal Code. Prior to me being issued a business license, there may be a service provided like application review by the finance team, back and forth in terms of making sure people understand compliance requirements, payment processing terms, and so forth. And so cities throughout the state have adopted a business license application review fee to recover the cost of that finance time. Like I said, it is in your proposed schedule, intended to recover the cost of finance time associated with that business license application review. But if you prefer to wait on this and deal with it as a broader topic, that makes total sense to us as well. Next slide. Oh, and then finally, Clerk, would you go back one more time? I would like to note to the Pinole City Council and to interested members of the public that there are no new regulations proposed as part of this study or the proposed fees for City Council. Anything you're seeing here is already linked to a service that's already provided by Pinole. So it's either an existing fee and we're just adjusting it, but even if it's a new fee for service, it's not a new regulation. It's something that's already regulated via your municipal code or something like that, and we're just trying to figure out a corresponding fee for service. Next slide. In terms of fiscal impact for City Council consideration, we see about $227,000 in annual additional revenue. Would you jump to one more slide, Clerk? So that would be assuming your permit patterns, development patterns remain similar to prior years. We would anticipate that these changes would result in about $227,000 in additional annual revenue. One more comment just for council consideration. When we think through these proposals and when we think through the recommendations, we prepare an analysis that is specific to Pinole and is linked specifically to Pinole's cost and organizational structure. But secondarily, after we prepare the outcomes and potential recommendations, we think through is what we're asking Pinole to do. Would it position Pinole as some sort of regional outlier? And our answer is no. We believe that Pinole City Council could adopt these fees and feel comfortable that you're adopting fees that align to what other agencies in your region and throughout the state adopt. In some cases, you might be a little lower for some services, in the mid-range for some services, at the upper end for others. It just depends on the service and what's being provided. But generally, you could say to yourself, we're not going to position Pinole as a regional outlier if we say yes to these proposed fees. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm available to receive any questions or feedback.
Thank you for the presentation, Terry.
Yeah.
We'll take it to council. Are there any questions of the presenter? All right, Councilmember Martinez-Roman.
Thank you both for your presentation, the introduction, and the presentation. Mr. Madison, I have a set of questions, so I'm going to go in the order that I made notes on the slides that you presented. The slide number 5. There's mention of finance fees. Can you give us examples of when these finance fees are collected? There is one new one that's proposed, and I'm wondering specifically which one that is as well.
Sure. The finance fees, there are very few of them. You have an existing credit card transaction processing fee. And so that is an example of what we would call a finance fee, even though it may apply citywide. That fee resides in your finance section of the fee schedule. The new fee that is proposed that resides in that finance section and that is catching your attention is the one I mentioned, that business license application review fee. If adopted, that fee, we would identify it in the finance section of the schedule because the fee is linked to attempting to recover the city's finance-related costs of processing business license applications.
Thank you. I'm going to the next slide on which I had some notes. Okay, on slide number 13, where there's the beginning of talking about restructuring from one-size-fits-all fee to tiered fees. The note that I made to myself, there's a bullet point above that, and that the example given here is the conditional use permit. When I recall my time on the Planning Commission, some of the conditions that apply, conditions that apply depending on the structure that's being permitted. And what comes to my mind are those that require, or perhaps all of them now, require fire department inspection. So given our relationship with fire services, our relationship being contracted services with the county, I am wondering how a new restructured fee would be processed if the work of fire inspection is done by both the county and the city. And I don't know that is to be that is so, that is the case. So perhaps we can have a little bit more research and as well explanation to the council.
I see the director has her hand raised, council member, that she might be able to chime in on the conditional use permit question.
Okay, if I may complete my thought? Okay, so I'm thinking specifically as an example where there may be two entities that do similar work, and in the case that comes to mind are the contracted fire services. If indeed there's fire inspection done by the county as well as done by the city, whose fee structure takes priority? I don't know how otherwise to word that, so that either the county or the city collects and processes fees. Hopefully there is no redundancy, but maybe redundancy is required, and both the county and the city collect those fees. So I'm wondering about that process and again, the collection of the fees and whether a permittee or an applicant for a permit requiring fire inspection would then be incurring two fees, county and city. So that's a question, set of questions there related to that. specifically fire inspections. Now, on slide 14, with regard to the business license application review, tell me the difference between what is currently being done, the kind of review that is currently being done on business applications for the fee that has existed up until now, and what additional kind of review would be done with an enhanced or additional fee. That's one question. And related is that businesses are of different types in Pinole. We have the storefronts, we have consulting businesses, we have the larger franchises, et cetera, the national brands, for example, and then the smaller ones. And so would there be a tiered set of fees based on the type of business? Given I am thinking that the review is going to have a different level of complexity based on the type of business that would be, for which a business license would be applied.
Councilmember Martinez, I want to do a quick check with staff. That was a lot of questions, and I'm trying to understand, did we capture everything, or did you guys, was there an expectation to answer those right now, or?
Sure.
We're okay? Okay. No, it was just a lot of questions, and they were very in-depth questions, especially the fire one. I just wanted to make sure we were okay. And then I know that we have Director Whalen.
Yes, she was prepared to answer the fire question.
Coordinate those. Okay, thank you. Director Whalen, did you want to try and take a shot at the fire one?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is Lily Whalen, your Community Development Director. So a short answer is that the fire review fees and City of Pinole fees have been separated. So whenever an applicant does apply for a building permit, and a building permit maybe that resulted from an approved conditional use permit that the Planning Commission granted, the we have a relationship with Confire where we will get them the review and the set of plans. The applicant pays directly to Confire for that review and the subsequent inspections of the tenant improvement. Did that answer your question, Councilmember?
Okay, I'm hoping that I heard you clearly. So the applicant would be, a fee would be collected by county as well as a city if needed, when needed, for fire-related involvement.
That is, for fire-related inspections, it would be just collected by a Confire. So the city wouldn't be inspecting that premise for on the behalf of the fire department. We would be doing the inspection on behalf of the building department, and those fees are collected in the building permit fee.
Okay, different type of inspection. Thank you. Okay. Understood.
Marquez, do you want to talk about the business license fee?
Sure. So the current structure is that the business license, as governed by the Pinole Municipal Code, is a business license tax. So it's not based on cost of recovery. It's a fee that was set at some point in time, and it increases incrementally based on the change in CPI. So in any given year, if the CPI increases by 5%, the business license tax also goes up by 5%. If it's less than 5%, the business license tax does not go up in that year. Currently, it's going up or increasing by 5% about every other fiscal year. So the fee that was introduced or recommended by the consultant is another fee that other communities have also instituted. And what it does is recover the actual staff time spent to review business license applications. So there is one fee for all new applications, and there would be a separate fee, which is also lower, for annual renewals. At this time, staff is asking City Council to consider the fee, but as Terry mentioned, having a larger conversation later as we continue to talk about future revenue generating options, that we would bring that back at that time, just because we would like to do a bit more analysis on the actual staff time spent. So we could do a time study with the finance team to determine what those are, because not all applications require an in-depth review. There tends to be more time required for new applications, and especially because we moved over to the ComDev system. So even getting folks up to speed with how to use that system and going in and reviewing applications before they pay the fees or before we approve it and issue a license does take some staff time, but that varies across the board. And it also depends on the type of business as well, because we may have to go into the state system to do some research on that for contractors, for example. And so that does require some additional staff time. So we would like to do more of a time study with staff to determine that. So we would ask that you consider holding off on that fee for tonight with the resolution, and we bring that back for further discussion at a later time.
Thank you. That helps me understand better where we are with this and the thought processes behind even presenting it today. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Guillory and Clear Source for your presentation. I'm referencing slide 14 from your presentation and page 115 of the agenda packet. I just have 3 questions. My first question is in regards to the SB 9 unit fee, which I think is very timely and necessary. Does our city have any existing or approved SB 9 projects that are already in the works at this point?
Hello there, I'm Mayor Pro Tem. This is Lily Whalen. Yes, we definitely do. We have both approved projects and pending projects. I don't have off the top of my head the number of either category, but we can definitely provide that as a follow-up.
That would be great, thank you. And I'm assuming that this fee would not be charged to those that have already been approved. Is that correct?
We did charge minimal time and materials for processing of those permits per line item in our fee schedule with respect to other fees that aren't listed in the fee schedule.
Okay.
And and those helped us tailor this recommended fee as well in processing those applications.
Gotcha. Thank you, Director Whalen. And if you can get back to the council about those existing projects and where we're at with that, that would be wonderful. I know that's a new piece of legislation.
Of course.
The other 2 questions I have is just a little bit more about the understanding of the CUPs, the conditional use permits. So I'm looking at page 115 of the agenda packet. Most recently, we opened a tattoo parlor in the city of Pinole, which I understand is a different business. Under that type of business, what is that considered? Would that be a tier 1 minor CUP, or is that a standard tier 2?
If you could give me one minute to pull up the packet. I have it up. I just need to look at the tiers.
And if it's helpful, it's on page 115 is what I'm referencing, but it doesn't state that specifically. So just wanted to ask about it.
I think it would be between a tier 1 or a tier 2, but
Okay.
I'd have to review the code to make sure which, how it's categorized in the zoning ordinance and which of those examples are most, similar.
That makes sense. Just so I'm clear, because I'm seeing this as a before and after illustration, the tiers, most of these are going to be comprehensive. I'm guessing there's not too many new businesses out there that we haven't identified as examples, but I'm just wondering, would someone be told their tier, or is that after? Like, how does the processing around tiers work? Since this is a transition, I just want to make sure we are clear with new business owners coming in, as well as business owners who have kind of been here in the city for a long time. I want to make sure we clarify like what this means for them and what would be different maybe if they were looking to do a CUP in this next year, for example. Maybe I'm thinking about the business owner who maybe for a while has been thinking about adding something to their business, or they've been watching planning commission meetings but haven't had the confidence to apply for a CUP. Help me understand like the process they'll go through to align with this kind of tiered system.
And if I
Sure.
may help,
Oh, yes.
Director Whalen provided me with a great example when I was asking about the CUP program, and I don't know if you have it in front of you. You compared the martial arts studio to a new bar, and that might be helpful in explaining, getting to Mayor Pro Tem Murphy's question. I have it in front of me if you want me to go ahead and.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely. City Manager Kelly, definitely fill in for me if I miss something here. But I think in terms of the process overall, we always have our planning staff is always engaged with new businesses that come in to let them know about requirements. That would be one of the first things that I expect of my team is to talk them through, talk folks through where they fell in the fee schedule, because that's one of the first things that businesses ask about is, what's it going to cost to go through this process? And that really is how we kind of came to thinking about this new tiered schedule is the number of times that we do talk with businesses that want to either expand, they're already in the city and they want to expand into, some other aspect of their business that does require a CUP. Some of our fees were prohibitive and stopped them there before they moved on into actually securing the permits. And so I think that for some of our smaller businesses and some of our existing businesses that might want to expand, these fees will be welcome in the future.
And so let me just add to the example that she provided to me, which I thought was very, very illustrative of the tiered system for the CUP. So if a martial arts studio currently pays flat fee of $5,726 for a CUP. The same cost for a new bar, bar here in Pinole, even though the bar requires significantly more staff time. Under the new schedule, the studio would be classified as a Tier 1 minor CUP with a fee of $4,254. However, if the studio qualifies as a small business, that is 10 FTEs or fewer, and under $500,000 in gross receipts, the fee would drop to $2,552, which still provides a 60% cost recovery level while encouraging small businesses to locate in Pinole. A bar, by contrast, would fall under a Tier 3 major CUP with a full cost recovery fee of $9,176. However, if the bar is a small business, the fee would decrease to $6,882. I don't know if that example provides a little bit of clarity.
It does. It actually explains a lot. I think that, I'll save my comments for now. And thank you, City Manager Kelly. Just a last question is around the term advanced manufacturing, which is being popularized across the nation and state of California. Where would the advanced manufacturing work? And that is really the idea of deploying cutting edge technologies to increase resource use efficiency, and then also to promote development of energy projects. Where is that?
Yes.
Where is that in the tier?
That would probably be in the zoning districts. Is that what you're referring to, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, but wouldn't someone who wanted to start a business in Pinole, for example, need a CUP in order to do a project like that?
It really depends. In our industrial zone or office and professional mixed use zone, there might be a way to move forward with it being a permitted use without a CUP.
Got it.
We'd have to look at the specific use in the zoning district.
Thank you. That clarifies that. Well, thank you. And thank you, Mayor.
Okay, seeing no other questions from council, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do we have any public comment?
Thank you. Yes, Rafael Menes.
Good afternoon again, Rafael Menes, resident of the City of Pinole, and I have a few sort of comments and questions on this item. First, just as sort of a broader meta comment, it seemed like the presenter's understanding was that the business license fee was going to be for like direct service provided from city staff to the applicant, like going back and forth over details on an application or whatever. But Director Gilrea's explanation of it seemed to be that it was more related to work the finance department does behind the scene, looking at state databases, inputting data, that sort of thing, and that therefore it would be a more universal sort of fee. So my question is, it sounds like those are two basically different concepts. How did the sort of mismatch happen there and the understanding of what was being proposed? Secondly, I had sort of a different but related question about that fee. So the existing business license fee is $168 plus $4 for the state fee, $172. Would this new fee be in addition to that fee? So whatever level it was set at, it would be added on to the 172, or would it be sort of separate subcategory? It applies to certain categories of fees, like the CUP process applies to certain businesses more so than to others. Let's see. I also noticed on page 100 in particular, looking at the building fees, that there were several items that were listed as recovering exactly $1 less than full cost recovery, even though it was listed as basically 100% recovery in the notes. And I was curious as to if there's any particular reason why that happened, because it seemed like it was odd that, for example, for the swimming pool replaster, for example, the cost of services listed as $493, and the proposed fee is listed as $492. And it's saying, you know, full cost recovery, we want to recover 100%. So, and there's several fees on that page that are in the same sort of way. Basically, the proposed fee is $1 less than full cost recovery. So I was wondering if there was a particular reason for that or just a random issue with how things were generated. And then finally, I guess my broader comment is around phrasing. Basically, the overall segment of the agenda packet is called an illustration of proposed fee changes. But it reads more to me like a bunch of charts, or rather a bunch of tables rather than charts. When I hear illustration, I think I'm going to see, you know, a pie chart or a bar chart or something more graphical to demonstrate. And while I do appreciate the larger text being used to show things in the way that everything's laid out neatly in a table, it's not what I'd ordinarily think of when I see the word illustration used. I'm wondering if maybe in the future a different phrase could be used if there's not going to be graphs involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just check online. There are no more public speakers. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any questions. Motion.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for the presentation. I think the tiered system is very necessary and timely. So want to commend staff, but also ClearSource for the assessment that brought us here. I look forward to how the changes will be enacted, and also just wanted to note how important I think the communication on it will be, given some of our legacy businesses here in Pinole, but also just giving what I hope is a culture of openness for new businesses to come into Pinole. We've had a range of them, which is really exciting in the past 5 years, but I think, well, I hope, and I look forward to more coming. So very supportive of these changes, but also very supportive of, again, some of the kind of what I see as data, I'm assuming data points that have reinforced that we are recovering what we need to, because there are some fees that are not changing today, or if this is approved, they're not changing. So very helpful information to have, and I think the staff report in particular is very detailed, so encouraging residents who have additional questions for our staff to also read the staff report, which I see as a very detailed compilation, but the presentation today was also very helpful too. So fully in support of the staff recommendation today.
Okay,
I'm ready to move that we adopt the resolution updating and establishing various user and regulatory fees effective October 1st, 2026.
A second?
Councilmember Toms?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez-Rubin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Yes.
Mayor Tave?
yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item, it's 10C. Introduce an ordinance adding chapter 1.18 to Title I of the Pinole Municipal Code. Should probably read the whole thing. Relating to statement of economic interest in electronic and paperless filing of campaign disclosure statements. City Manager Kelly.
I'm going to defer to our city clerk, Heather Bell Spears.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public and staff. My name is Heather Bell Spears, City Clerk. I have a brief presentation, if we can have that pulled up. Thank you. Okay, so the item before you tonight is to introduce an ordinance adding Chapter 1.18 to Title I of the Pinole Municipal Code relating to statements of economic interest and electronic and paperless filing of campaign disclosure statements. Next slide. So just a little background, the Political Reform Act of 1974 requires the filing of specified statements, reports, and other campaign finance documents. Under the Act, a local government agency may require these filings to be made online or electronically with the local filing officer, the city clerk. With the enactment of more recent legislation, AB 2452 and AB 2151, the Act requires the local filing officer to make all data available on the internet in an easily understood format that provides the greatest public access within 72 hours of the filing deadline. Next slide. So historically, the city council candidates and campaign committees have filed paper copies of required campaign statements and reports. Once they're filed, the documents are made available for review by the public. The city clerk's office has historically spent a significant amount of time to make such paper filings readily available and posted online, which requires further handling. Next slide. So I'd like to introduce NetFile. The NetFile system is created specifically for cities and counties responsible for administering campaign finance filings and statements of economic interest. Meets the requirements of the Secretary of State and allows for electronic and paperless filing of campaign statements. I thought it would be interesting to note for the council and the public that 250 cities across the state have already implemented online filing. And then locally, the County of Contra Costa and the cities of Antioch, Concord, Martinez, Oakley, Pittsburgh, Pleasant Hill, and Richmond in our county. And then Hercules is also in the process of implementing. Next slide. So the city has already budgeted for and contracted with NetFile for a bundle of services, including online filing. The Form 700 for our conflict of interest code filers is already active. And we are now ready to implement the system for campaign filings. So pursuant to Government Code 84615, the City Council must officially adopt an ordinance memorializing their approval to require and authorize complete electronic signature and submission of electronic campaign disclosure forms. The full text of the ordinance is included within the staff report. Next slide. So the recommendation this evening is for the City Council to waive the first reading and approve the ordinance adding Chapter 1.18 to Title 1 of the Pinole Municipal Code relating to statements of economic interest and electronic and paperless filing of campaign disclosure statements. And I did want to note, upon approval, we'll go ahead and schedule the second read and adoption for September 1st. And with that, I'm available for any questions you have.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Thank you for your presentation. Help me understand how NetFile and FPPC online filing work together.
Yes, so NetFile is an agent, an approved agent by which, or through which filers that are mandated can file electronically. So when a user accesses the NetFile system and they file, it is transmitted directly to the FPPC. So there are multiple agents that operate in this way. NetFile is a very popular one. And I have to say what's wonderful about them is the level of customer support that they've already been providing. They also interface with the user. So if users have any questions, they need support, they are available to assist the filers as well. Does that answer your question?
To see if I understood by the response I give you. So a candidate and or an elected won't have to access the FPP site anymore. They would be accessing or filing through.
Oh, I understand. Okay, so there's several different ways by which a person could need to file or be required to file. The piece that we're talking about tonight is actually the campaign finance forms, the 400 series. So there are certain filers that are 87-200 filers that have to file directly with the FPPC. And so that includes the City Council, the Planning Commission will send you notifications reminding you of that. But this is for City Council candidates, anyone that has a controlled committee already formed with the Secretary of State. So those Form 460s, that whole series, this is relating to that and filing those online.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, so we have to open a public hearing. Is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Looks like we have none online. I'm just going to do a double check. No public comment, thank you.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we waive the first reading and approve the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Councilmember Toms?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez-Rubin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
Aye.
And Mayor Tafe?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business, item 11A, City Manager Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Tave. So this item is in response to this item is to authorize response to the grand jury report number 2604. Pinole's future is in a rough road, and we're asking for an action item to approve the response. We are required to respond to that civil grand jury report and to all their findings and recommendations by August 14th, 2026. At the July 7th, 2026 City Council meeting, we outlined 26 findings and 6 recommendations. The city has already started and plans to implement all 6 of the recommendations. For the 23 of the 26 findings, the city staff agreed. For 3 of the findings, the city staff is partially in agreement. And the reason we're partially in agreement is because of the great work that you all did at the June 23rd, 2026 City Council meeting in balancing a structurally balanced budget without using the Section 115 trust. So as a result, we have a operating budget that is balanced. We will not have long-term financial, if we follow that yellow brick road strictly and are very disciplined, we will not have a long-term operating deficits, and our Section 115 trust will not be depleted by 2031. But we have to exercise strict budget discipline, and to that end, to ensure that our operating budgets are structurally balanced and that our expenditures do not exceed our revenues, and to discuss long-term financial planning and capital budgets. I have tentatively scheduled quarterly City Council Finance Subcommittee meetings and an Infrastructure Subcommittee meeting contingent upon committee members' availability. The first Finance Subcommittee would be Wednesday, September 23rd, 2026 at 5 p.m. The second quarterly meeting would be Wednesday, January 13th, 2027 at 5 p.m. The third quarterly meeting for the Finance Committee would be March 10th, 2027 at 5 p.m. And the fourth quarterly meeting would be Wednesday, June 9th, 2027 at 5 p.m., where we can go through the budget in detail. Additionally, because of our roads and condition of our roads, to help us better plan for our capital, in a long-term capital plan, we've scheduled tentatively a infrastructure subcommittee on Wednesday, January 2027 at 5 p.m. So this is an opportunity for more members of the public to weigh in on the budget and the capital plan. If you remember OPEB liability, we are doing a lot right now to think through OPEB liability. If you remember in the presentation that we presented last week, the California Policy Center and the local fiscal health dashboard, you'll see that Pinole actually had an A for having general fund reserves. They had a B on debt reduction. They had an A on liquidity, an A on revenue trends, a D on pension costs, a B on pension funding, an F on pension obligations, an F on OPEB obligations, and an F on OPEB funding. I want you to know right now that we are in the process of hiring a consultant to benchmark retiree health care plans and explore strategic options in managing its long-term liabilities, looking at everything from the age that you vest, the service of years, cost-sharing opportunities. We are going to look at and benchmark and see what other cities and counties are doing around us. And finally, the next item, not this item on the City Council agenda, is to take into consideration a one-time revenue policy and prioritization of non-recurring resources. This is timely considering that the Civil Grand Jury Report recommendation number 6 is that the City Council consider directing staff to review funding options such as asset sales to address Pinole's unfunded pension liability. So we had a longer presentation last week. I don't have another PowerPoint. Really what is in the critical path today is to have a response to the Civil Grand Jury by August 14th.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions from Council? Councilmember Martinez-Rubin?
Yes, this is related to public comment that will probably come back again. And if we can understand better, all these opportunities for public input have been scheduled, tentatively scheduled at this point. They will be quarterly. They will each present time. There will be on those meeting agendas time for public comment. It's a different format than what we have heard requested by, if not one, perhaps other members of the public from whom we haven't heard but might be interested. Is there any possibility of having a less formal type of presentation, either somehow parallel or after all these different scheduled meetings have occurred, so that indeed there is some exchange and opportunity to even further clarify what might be technical language or presentations that require much more dedicated time, even during a meeting that has been scheduled?
Absolutely, and I was thinking maybe to have like an informal budget town hall, maybe in the second half of this fiscal year. This first part being let me get situated, let me figure, meet this, understand what our priorities are, understand the City Council's priorities, meet the public. Let me get through these first 6 months, and as we go into earnest into the budget process, I'd be more than happy to have, for lack of a better word, a town hall meeting. I don't want it just directly about the Civil Grand Jury Report. If I have a town hall meeting, it'll be about Pinole and its vision, and in light of the civil grand jury report, but it will be more about Pinole and the vision and the future of Pinole and making sure that we are, I think in long-term financial stability is key to a vibrant and safe and economically thriving Pinole. So yes, I would be more than happy to do a workshop or a town hall, and less informal. You just have 3 minutes to present, but I would prefer to do it in the second half of this fiscal year.
And thank you for that. Thank you for that consideration. It does take some time to come to a point of having understood processing and then even think beyond what questions we might have today once that whole intellectual processing occurs. So thanks for that consideration.
Thank you, Councilmember Martinez-Rubin. Are there any other questions? Okay, we'll go to public comment.
Thank you. Rafael Menes.
Good evening again, Rafael Menes, resident of Pinole, and I just have a few comments on this item. First, I appreciate the city shifting to agreeing with the finding on finding number 5, Pinole generated operating deficits due to expenditures exceeding revenues in 4 of the 5 years prior to fiscal year 25-26. I'm still looking forward to written replies to my prior written comments on that when time is available. A bit later on, the response to finding number 12 on page 258, it says Pinole partially agrees with the finding. The current annual obligation is $6.2 million based on the annual valuation report with the measurement date of June 2024. And then it says Pinole's most recently reported CalPERS annual obligation for 2024 was $6.5 million, and it says Pinole agrees with the finding. It looks like maybe the partially agrees should be for finding number 13, not finding number 12, because a lot of the text there seems like it applies to finding number 13 and not finding number 12. Unless there's a partially agrees with the unfunded pension liability.
You are absolutely correct, and I will fix that mistake.
Great. And let's see. And finally, I guess in regards to recommendation number 6, I think that at some point in the past, the various unions mentioned they were setting up a working group to try and investigate potential cost saving or mitigating measures for the cost of OPEB benefits. I'm wondering whether that can be mentioned somehow in the response to recommendation number 6 or noted, or whether that's sort of outside the scope of that recommendation's response. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Yes, we do have one online. Let's see if you can identify yourself for the record. iPhone 75.
Stephen Tilton.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, isn't it refreshing to have a city manager present to the council and the community a plan and be open to listening to citizens and their input and so forth. I really appreciate what I'm hearing, and I'm open for much more of this from our new city manager. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
That concludes public comment. Thank you.
Okay, bringing it back to council for any comments. Okay, I would just say and encourage the public, the city manager has been open to meeting with staff. I know there's a lot to wrap your head around when you look at a grand jury report and the findings. To schedule time with the city manager, or see if you could schedule time to go over some of this stuff, maybe have staff involved in that meeting. It is over the course of time that this has developed to this point, and then the solutions forward. And I think we'll have a little bit more productive conversation once we get that full vision from council and then do a town hall in the second half of this. So I do agree that that's probably the best course moving forward. But I do want the citizens to schedule time with the city manager and understand where we are. So just wanted to make that comment before we move forward. Councilmember Sasai.
I think Mayor Pro Tem had his.
I was just going to motion approval.
Oh, okay, thank you. We just want to thank the staff for their work on getting this together, and also our interim city manager, Garrett Evans. I know during the really tough budget season, worked a lot to. A lot we're seeing in this response. I mean, there's a lot of the work that he put together to see these things through to be implemented, and so want to thank him for that, as well as the council for making sure we make the necessary tough decisions in this past budget season. One thing I'm thinking about here, and I like the idea of having a town hall to address these ongoing concerns that are brought up here. I know my opinion is that the finance subcommittee has been severely underutilized, and I wanted to make sure that during my time on the subcommittee as mayor pro tem and mayor, really only met once or twice a year. I know that's during budget season and maybe in the December timeframe, but I think it'd be great to utilize that as a forum just to get updates from staff, allow for more public forum to discuss these ongoing issues, whether it's the operating or the capital side, because these things are discussed a lot in the public. Right? There's a lot of questions, a lot of things, and even misinformation spread online as well. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to discuss those things and really minimize lengthy conversations during council meetings and budget season, and really have that be the forum for that. So I want to encourage the mayor and mayor pro tem to take advantage of that forum. With that, I'll pass it to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Were there any other comments? I did want to say thank you to Garrett Evans as well. I think those subcommittee meetings were actually the places where we started to kind of figure out how to move forward with our budget. And there's also a little bit more latitude in those subcommittee meetings for individuals to get on record with their concerns. So that's definitely well received, Councilmember Sasai. Okay, do we have Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, Mayor, I wanted to move for the approval and authorization for you to sign the response of the grand jury report number 2604.
Second.
Is that subject to the correction?
Yes, with the amendments, of course.
Second that.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, motion, Councilmember Sasai, second. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Councilmember Toms.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez Rubin.
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy.
Yes.
Mayor Tave.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item 11B, one-time revenue policy and prioritization of non-recurring resources. City Manager Kelly.
Yes, I'm going to have Director Guillory take us through this presentation.
Yes, so I just have just a few slides just to start the conversation. Okay, next slide. So this item came about as a result of the recent sale of the property which houses the post office and discussions around how to use or where to direct the one-time revenue source. So to provide some background, the city currently has a policy, which is a revenue policy that covers one-time or non-recurring revenue sources. It provides general guidance on using one-time revenues for one-time expenditures. However, it does not include a framework for prioritizing how to use those funds. With the recent sale of the post office, we generated proceeds of approximately $900,000. And following that sale, the City Council discussed several options for using the proceeds. That included contributing the funds to the Section 115 Trust and to road improvements. The City Council directed staff to return with an agenda item to discuss a policy that can be used to guide the decision on how to use those funds. Next slide. So just some general policy guidance. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends that local governments adopt policies establishing guidelines for the use of non-recurring resources. And what we found as per the GFOA guidance and reviewing some policies from other local agencies, some of the common priority rankings that we observed that local governments use or include to use one-time resources, and this is in priority order, includes restoring or maintaining reserves, making contributions to pension or OPEB obligations through a Section 115 trust. That was one of the highest priorities that we saw across the board. Also funding unfunded capital improvements or deferred maintenance, and that was a part of the discussions here, or addressing other one-time council priorities. Next slide. So the recommendation for the City Council tonight is to review the revenue policy and provide direction on possibly expanding the policy to include a prioritization framework for non-recurring resources for not only the recent sale, but for any future sales of assets or any other one-time resources. And also consider applying these guidelines to determine how to use the one-time proceeds from the sale. And next slide. That concludes the presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Councilmember Martinez-Roman.
Thank you. So I appreciate that you have researched what other areas, other cities have done.
Yes.
With the kind of ranking that could happen. I am wondering if some of these are formula-based. Because when it comes to the second point that you're asking from council,
yes,
to consider applying guidelines and determining the use of the recent purchase of the post office, what comes to mind, without me having an answer for you, but what comes to mind is what proportion of any amount would be allotted to some or all of the categories of expenses that a city would have. So my question then is, was there anything that you found that helped with helping determine that?
So good question, because I did run across some of those where there were percentages applied. And that wasn't necessarily addressed in the one-time revenue policies, but more so in their fund balance policies for how to use surpluses at the end of a fiscal year. Those are where I saw more of the apportionments to various areas, like 50% to the Section 115 trust, another 20% to capital improvements. And those varied widely across the board for those local agencies that did include that. But again, it wasn't necessarily addressed in the one-time revenue policy. It was more so in the fund balance policy and addressing year-end surpluses.
Related question. Based on standard or acceptable accounting practices and your expertise in finance, what might be some of the reasons for that? We've got one-time revenues, but no, perhaps that is the answer because they're only one time, regardless of the amount. But I don't want to anticipate that that is the answer or the reason.
That's the answer. That is the answer, because it is one time. So you, and hopefully this is answering your question if I understand correctly. Those, if you put it in the Section 115 trust, for example, it's going to gain interest earnings from, it'll help to increase that balance, and then we're gaining interest on it. It is considered one time. If we needed it for reserves, which we already maintain our reserves according to policy, so I don't know that that would be a priority at this time. It just depends on the needs of the community for how they distribute it, how they would use it, but I can say they did stick to the guidance of only using it for one-time sources, whether it's capital projects or reserves or what have you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm trying to figure out if they're comments or questions. Maybe we should, do we have any other questions from council? Okay. Councilmember Sasai, go ahead.
Yeah, Thanks for the presentation. One thing I'm looking at here is addressing other one-time council priorities, and from what you've seen in other local governments, when they do have one-time revenues for sale of properties, whether it be whether it be housing, or whether it be commercial real estate. Where do they most often place those funds?
The Section 115 trust.
Section 115 trust.
The most common.
Most common.
Highest priority area.
Where are other examples of where you've seen those one-time revenues go to?
Capital projects was second.
Okay. And those capital projects are related to, is it deferred maintenance around the?
It varied. So not really new projects, but deferred maintenance. For example, of course, roads is always at the top of the list for most communities.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to public comment for the item.
Rafael Menace.
Good evening, Mayor, Council staff, President. My name is Rafael Menace, resident of Pinole, and my comment's very simple on this item. Given, as was just addressed in the city's response to a grand jury report, the city's significant and ongoing pension and OPEB liabilities, I think that the prioritization should be 100% to offsetting pension and OPEB liabilities until such a time as the city no longer has major liabilities. I recognize that the city's roads are also a major need, and that they also need significant revenue sources. But if the city's going to be taking out bond measures or doing other things to fund the road improvements, it's going to need to show that it's fiscally responsible. And one way that it can do that is by having a policy to set aside funds specifically to cover those long-term liabilities, like the Pension 115 Trust and like the segment of that trust to cover OPEB liabilities. So I encourage the council to adopt a policy that would direct 100% of one-time revenues into OPEB and Section 115 trust funds until such times as those liabilities are met. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Thank you, Speaker. So bringing it back to council, I mean, for me, this is something that I know that in our previous strategic plan, it's pretty much probably about time to start talking about. Has there been any cities that looked at using one-time sales for property into economic development, or using that money to help, I guess, further the city's, I'm just thinking of, the Kmart being demoed, the vacant Safeway. There's got to be money needed to help position Pinole to attract developers. I'm wondering if this money, rather than going to the 115 trust immediately, is that something that we can hold and allow staff to develop a strategy around using that money for economic development? I feel like we sold this property. It was benefiting Pinole, I think to the tune of about $95,000 a year, if I remember correctly, as far as the rent that was coming in.
Yes.
About that much. And so receiving this, pretty much 10 years of payments up front, what strategies could be implemented to using that money, if any? I mean, if it makes better financial sense to move it to the 115 trust or to establish the OPEB fund, I'm just trying to understand where city staff is thinking.
I would prefer to have it go to the Section 115 trust.
Okay.
And if the council says, well, maybe you should think of something else, and I'd have it go to the capital plan with roads, but the majority of it going to the Section 115 trust.
Mm-hmm.
As for economic development, and I'm going to sit down and spend time with Community Development Director Whalen, one of the things that I've consistently heard, and she has heard, like, even if we had like maybe half the money go to help with tenant improvements. The tenant improvements needed at the Safeway site, the former Safeway site, or the Kmart site, would be well beyond that, $450,000. So what those big box retails or hotels or whatever we are able to convince go there, they're looking for like a share of property tax increment or sales tax increment over a period of time, like 10 years, to help finance their tenant improvement and build out. And so that's right now is a strategy that we're thinking about. We're going to sit down and come up with some more strategies in this next month that we have time. But I would prefer that this money go to the Section 115 trust to help us with our long-term financial stability.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Seeing any other comments? I saw Councilmember Toms and then Mayor Pro Tem.
I just have a motion. So.
Okay.
Yep. Well, I was going to say, so thank you for this presentation and thank you for bringing back the policy. I think it would be helpful to update our policy in a couple of ways. First, I think the deferred capital maintenance as a term is valuable, but I think we should, given also the approval of our recent grand jury report, just be more explicit in the preventative maintenance and road maintenance work that could be under that category. I think just being very clear and intentional. Very much so. I think, again, it also just directly responds to the findings in the grand jury report of investing in one of the city's highest priority infrastructure needs, which is the road maintenance. So when we say deferred maintenance, I think we have a huge body there. So just being more explicit in the policy, I think, would be helpful. And I think using one-time funds as well to preserve the streets, but also maximizing the benefit of our SB1 gas tax, Measure I funding. I don't know how you write that in there, but I think it's just really important that we are very intentional in the policy since we're updating it all anyway. Mayor, like you, I also thought maybe something about economic development or adhering to our economic development strategy is valuable here. And I think maybe taking out, because it says like other council one-time priorities, maybe instead of saying other council priorities, we like update that with like very clear economic development initiative of our plan, because one-time priorities can be anything, right, at this point. So I think it's valuable to align those two, again, road maintenance and also economic development with our updated policy, largely because they do directly address, right, the grand jury recommendations, but then I think they're also helpful for us as a council just to review this policy and see a little bit more intentionality. I know we typically update these policies every budget season at the finance subcommittee goes through them, but I think given where we are today, specifically when it comes to like those one-time projects, one-time council priorities, I think right now projects that improve our commercial corridors or support enhanced business access at this point could both strengthen the city's financial position, but also improve the quality of life for residents. So I would suggest those just two amendments. I don't think they're necessarily huge changes to the policy. As it relates to the percentage, I don't think we're ready for that yet. I wouldn't say I would be ready for that, but I think that's where I would look to staff to really help with those recommendations when we do have a sale. I hear today's city manager, Kelly, talk about, OPEB for this one. Perhaps, again, I'm wondering about like what would maximize the benefit of some of our funding with road maintenance as well this year. So maybe 75%, 25%, or 80-20, whatever works. But I think those updating the policy with those intentionalities could really be helpful for future councils in our city as well.
Councilmember Sasai, and then followed by Councilmember Toms.
Thanks, Mayor, and of course, I want to thank Councilmember Toms for. I think this discussion was born out of a motion you had in one of the past meetings there, and quite honestly, what you're proposing there is kind of in line with what the staff was talking about. But a lot of local governments, where they do appropriate those one-time revenues. What Mayor Tate was talking about in terms of using these funds to spur development in our city is something that I first came to mind when thinking about one-time revenues from sale of properties. But one thing I'm thinking about too is the problem of deferred maintenance in our city with roads, and then there's two realities there. The first reality is that the longer you wait, we wait a long time, it gets a lot more expensive. And then the second reality too is, yes, I mean, to the public comment we had, we could go up for a bond measure. We could go up for, I don't know, a specific tax or to go towards road maintenance and rehabilitation. But the reality too is that we unfortunately have seen how those kind of measures have, how voters have responded to those in this past primary. And the affordability crisis worsening, economic uncertainties from federal, domestic, international policy decisions. And I suspect that it's going to get worse, unfortunately. I mean, can't speak to the next 2 years and if there's a measure to be put up in the presidential election, but I'm not fully certain that folks in this city would be inclined to approve more taxpayer money going towards projects like these, even if it's going towards the right place. And road maintenance continues to be one of the most frequent things that residents bring up to me, and I know to this residents council. And so $902,500. I'm not comfortable right now approving any motion to appropriate those funds anywhere at this moment, and also approving maybe an amendment to the revenue policy. I think Mayor Pro Tem Murphy was alluding to this, but maybe it doesn't go towards just one place. Maybe it's a split, 75-25, 50-50, going towards Section 115 trust, and then maybe the half goes to a development fund, or it goes towards our roads. But I think that's a larger discussion, and quite honestly, need to have more talks with staff about that. Need to talk with more residents about that in terms of where the most appropriate place for these funds are, and having to build a policy around it. And so, I mean, my recommendation is to bring this and refer this back to the Finance Subcommittee to discuss this further and talk with staff further and bring a full recommendation back to the council. But at this moment, not going to support any sort of motion to take action on this at this moment.
Okay, and I would like to make a motion.
I'm sorry, if I make comments before your motion?
Well, Councilmember Toms was
next.
Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, before your motion. I don't think it's related
Councilmember Martinez,
to that at all. And then if we have to discuss the motion, again, we go through the process.
Right.
So back to reviewing the revenue policy and expanding the policy to include prioritization of non-recurring resources. I think there are two important reasons to do that, to reiterate. We're talking about prioritization of non-recurring resources. Speaks to having in front of us and our attention as a city being called to the fact that the greater expenses have to do with pension and OPEB benefits, and there not being alternative sources of funding specifically for those, not many alternatives, where for infrastructure and roads specifically and economic development, there may be. And that is what staff has been exploring. And the instance of roads, I think it was in our last council meeting when we heard specifically the different sources of funding that are available as of now to begin phasing road repairs. And so, although it's taken some time to get to accumulate the different sources, Measure J, fuel tax, and others that are more regional, we've gotten there. I think also, as I'm saying this, I'm also reminded that it takes the public that you hear from also to become aware that it may not be in a single year that all the different funding sources are acquired to be able to pay for the deferred maintenance that we have had and that we are witness to today. And indeed, staff have now gathered those different sources of funding for street work. Unlike what the millions of dollars that we need for the liability that we have with regard to pension. And so two things that keep occurring to me is if there can be an explicit statement about no other short-term or immediate resources available to pay for, there may be better language than pay for, but that really is what we're talking about, cover the costs of X item. In this case, OPEB and pension are the more obvious ones. And then another point to stress, and you reminded me of this, Finance Director Guillory, is the opportunity for use of the funds that allow for growth. And so when we're talking about compounding interest, it favors the city to use that, to use the one-time funds not for immediate use or short-term, which would be in this year, to address something that is obvious and the public calls for, because it is immediate once they open their doors and drive on our streets, but rather to go the route that is wiser in terms of finances, and that is to invest for the longer term, which is what we ask for, patience of the public and of council members to regard that there is an opportunity for growth if we allow time to work as it does when we're talking about compounding interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Martinez-Rubin.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, I'd like to move that we adopt, modify the policy to have revenues, proceeds from the sale of properties or other one-time funds go 100% into the 115 trust, and that we apply this policy for the one-time proceeds of $902,500 from the sale of the post office property, and then I have comments if there's a second.
I second that.
Okay. So my comments on that is that in the previous item, we talked about having strict discipline. This is strict discipline. The policy can be modified annually when we do the budget, but I think we need to show the public that we're taking very seriously the grand jury report, and we also need to show the grand jury that we're taking their recommendations seriously. If we talk about, we do have other needs, and I don't want to discount the other needs that we have, but there are other funding sources for that, potentially even a bond issue. Right now, we talk about there's not an appetite for any measures, and partially because we have not proven ourselves to be disciplined. This is one step closer to showing that we can be disciplined with the funds. So perhaps in the future, if we stay on track, follow the yellow brick road recommendations, we get strict with, dealing with the OPEB liability, perhaps there could be some, capital bond issuances in our future. And I just want to also note that, there are other funding sources for some of the capital improvements, but there's not other funding sources other than our general fund for the OPEB liabilities, and those are not going to go away. Also, we've been relying on the interest from that fund for our budgets, and as that shrinks down, that interest is going to go away.
So Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Sasai.
Yeah, I just I don't support the motion mostly because I want to be comprehensive. So I want to reaffirm my support for some of our funding, obviously to go to OPEB. I mean, it's within our policy, so I think to do that would be aligned with our policy. I don't want us to ignore the other findings in the grand jury report, two of which include road maintenance and repavement, which I think we have to be disciplined, you have to sometimes manage multiple priorities. And in this case, we have to manage multiple priorities, including, ensuring that our road maintenance plan is developed, and also a huge piece of this conversation is our community engagement strategy to address some of these issues too. The reason why I'm supportive of this coming back, first of all, the policy coming back with the amendments, is that opens up an additional opportunity for the public to have a conversation not only about the post office sale, but also about the non-recurring the use of non-recurring resources policy. But I also want to reiterate that, again, we have to manage multiple findings right now. We have to manage multiple priorities. I also want to get us away from this notion that our city, I don't know what data is driving this outside of anecdotal evidence, but I want to get away from the city assuming that folks in our city don't want to be taxed for things that they care about. Because frankly, when I go into the community and I talk to people, people care about the city, people care about the quality of life in the city, and I've oftentimes heard that they would be willing to tax themselves on things that they care about, including road maintenance or improving some of our facilities here. I do know that the grand jury report listed that there were some Pinole officials who listed tax fatigue, but that should not be used as a grand gesture for the entire city. And certainly I think at this point we are still, if we do move forward today with just assuming that we want it all to go to OPEB liabilities, I see that as missing the mark on two other findings that are equally as important to that finding. And again, I want to list out the idea and the finding that says that we have to move forward with road maintenance, but we also have to move forward with ensuring our community is a part of the decision-making process to get to the bottom line of these things. So I would hope that we can continue this item, mostly because I hope that the staff can come back with those additional amendments and that we also identify other opportunities of communication to the public on this type of item. Because the way I see it, this is not going to be the only non-recurring sale of property that we have coming up in this fiscal year. So I would really appreciate dissecting this a bit more. And again, I think cleaning up some of this language also helps us and provides us an opportunity for the public to engage. Again, the other one-time council priorities seems very, very broad right now. And maybe, for the last 10 years, that type of language worked, but I also see some alignment here on the council today around just what type of economic development strategies could also spur growth financially and in our fiscal position, similar to the Section 115 trust. We have an economic development strategy that has listed out several things that our city has not done that we have said that we would do in order to strengthen our fiscal position. I'd like to see us talk about those things in alignment with this policy before we jump the gun on only one example of that. Though, again, I want to reaffirm, we've seen that one example and that the contribution of the pension or OPEB contributions, we've done those things, right? We put $2.5 million into OPEB, I think, in this last year, and we can put more in, obviously, but I think we need to not jump the gun in doing this. We need to go back to the public. We need to have the discourse as a council more.
So, council members, go ahead.
I don't want to be repetitive at all, but one thing I'm thinking about, and again, validating what my colleagues are saying about the importance of depositing into the Section 115 trust. And again, I want to support that, and we'll support that. But what I'm thinking too is, again, yes, there are many funding sources for capital improvements, and yes, the public should be patient because these things move slow. We've been requesting that for many, many years, and unfortunately, as we get briefed on the conditions of our roads and how much money we are putting in year by year, the road quality isn't improving. We're just maintaining, and we're barely maintaining, right? And it's going to get more expensive as time goes on, and the more we ignore that problem and just say, well, let's be patient, we might get a grant here, a grant there. What's going to happen is we're going to lose the trust of the public when it comes to going up for measures like this. And we think we've already lost that, to be honest. And so people need to see tangible results. They expect the tangible results, something out of Measure I. Unfortunately, I don't think that road quality has increased since that measure has passed. And so I want to make sure that we Again, we can't solve the problem entirely in terms of road rehabilitation, but I think that the Finance Subcommittee is a great forum to find a good split there. Split between depositing into the trust and then also making sure we address the road rehabilitation progress issue that we have in the city. And I can't speak to what that split is. I'll be honest, it'll be arbitrary right now. I think it has to be data informed. And I think that's something that staff can bring back to the Finance Subcommittee, and they can decide, make a recommendation, and bring it back to the council.
Thank you. So I have just a few more questions, and I think what we're trying to do is there's multiple risks out there based on the grand jury report. And what I'm hearing or what I'm suspecting based on, Councilmember Martinez Rubin's comments and maybe City Manager, Director Guillory, if you could. So when putting this money into the 115 trust reduces, or how much is in the 115 currently? Just number-wise.
So it has a balance as of the close of last fiscal year after we did the transfer out that was budgeted. So we're at $13.6 million, and that includes both the pension subaccount and the OPEB subaccount.
So there's a potential for this to be a 7%, 8% boost to that.
Yeah.
And what does that do for our financial picture, knowing that that is something that's out there versus the road liability? I'm thinking now that I'm seeing why we wanted to put that money into the 115 trust is just to position ourselves, and then interest-wise, putting us more in a long-term liability and reducing that maybe changes the position a little bit better than two. I think it's $400,000 for 2 roads, right? So it's about 4 different roads being paved, and impact is really what you're talking about with the $900,000 going into the 115 trust to our financial position.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct, because if we are able to get a general obligation bond based off this, we can, it will be more than $400,000. It would be, millions of dollars that we can really impact in repaving the roads.
I see, and I got it. Okay. Okay.
Just a quick question. So the original, and of course I have to align to you with our response for the grand jury. The original Section 115 trust before this fiscal year, it was set to what fiscal year expectations, the forecasting?
As far as the full depletion of the fund, it was by fiscal year 2029-30.
And where are we visioning out now with the additional deposit?
So I don't have a set number of years, but way beyond that. I would say at least 10 years, especially if we're only using the interest earnings.
So 2.5 million last year gives us another 10 years forecast. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not necessarily, not just that. So we changed the methodology for how we're using it anyhow, whether we add to it or not, right? So the goal is to only use the interest earned on it and to keep the principal in place, right? So that's about $13 million that will remain. So it could last indefinitely, right? If we're only using interest every year.
Yeah.
Of course, the economy will probably be a little different, right? So I'm just,
forecast, right?
Based on what the information we have now, right? Yeah. And so, with that, I can't give an X number of years at this point because we would, if we're just maintaining that principle, only using interest, it could last for a very long time.
But we're forecasting beyond what was listed in the grand jury report
absolutely.
At this point.
Yes, and starting with the current fiscal year, because we have the amount to be withdrawn for fiscal year 2026-27 is just under $900,000. We realized $1.7 million in interest earnings alone last year. So it's averaging around 10 to 12% in interest earnings per year.
And do we have a forecast for the PCI of roads in the next 10 years to staff? I mean, this is a question I'm asking because
It's a very good question, and I don't have that off the top, but we will get that information to get back to you.
For sure. And so the reason I'm asking that question is because I think that's about the discipline, right? The metric of discipline is also listed. You know, Councilmember Sasai, you mentioned that our roads are kind of the same. They're actually getting worse. So our PCI has decreased over the last 4 years. It hasn't stayed the same. So how do we get there, right? I think this is part of that conversation, although we also just approved a budget that hopefully will get us there. And I know we're going to have an update next council meeting, or the next scheduled council meeting. And so I just want to reiterate, I think that's the value of kind of having this policy come back and like deepening down to some of those parameters that I listed out earlier. But I think we're already working on some of these, like the OPEB obligation. We're already putting money in there. Of course, putting more money in there is going to make us even better. Want to reaffirm the support for that. But I also think our road maintenance strategy needs a little bit of a push. And I think it also needs to maximize the impacts of all of the other funding mechanisms that were listed out, including Measure I, but of course the gas tax and some of the other things that we were talking about today.
So what I'm hearing is that if bond is on the radar, what we're trying to do is strengthen the 115 trust and eliminate that long-term liability, or at least for the 30 years of a bond, right? So if we're able to say, hey, we're healthy for the next 30 years, then we look more attractive for a bond, and somebody wouldn't be questioning whether or not you're going to be able to afford them. So that's what the $900,000 would go into, to help strengthen that point, or that bullet point, right?
Yes, and just to reiterate, that's where our lowest grade were, right? The pension and OPEB in the report.
Right, and to follow up on Mayor Pro Tem's comment, in addition to having, increasing our score with the policy index and reducing our liability there, we need to maximize the money that we have and get those contracts out, and that is my goal to you, so that a year from now, when we go out for a bond, is like, look, we actually did spend the money that the voters have already given to us, and we started paving these streets. And so we were going to put our foot on the gas pedal to get as much contracts out and get as much work done, and improve our fiscal outlook.
Got it. Okay, we have a motion and second. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Toms?
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez-Rubin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sasai?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Murphy?
No.
Mayor Tave?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item 13, our last citizens to be, item 12, new business, we have none. Item 13, citizens to be heard.
Mayor, can I ask for clarification? So we just approved something. Are we getting anything back? I mean, there was an ask of recommendations for like council direction. Is that the council direction there? Or I'm just being clear
It was have a policy for 100% to go to the OPED.
Okay.
And the proceeds from the post office sale to also go to OPEB.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that means our policy is going to change to only OPEB now, just to be clear. We're not doing the other three at all. Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that staff is clear on that too. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that was the motion, and then I made a comment that can be changed every year when we do the budget.
Sure. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so moving to item 12, new business. We have none. Item 13, our last citizens to be heard. Madam Clerk, do we have any citizens to be heard?
Yes, thank you. I believe this is Mr. Tilton. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Think you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, 3 minutes here. Let me get, so first of all, I'm trying to reiterate. I want to thank the city manager for walking with me last Monday for an hour and a half. And we walked all areas of Pinole, and we talked to business owners. We talked about the trees that are being trimmed. We walked through the Faria project. We walked through the senior center. It's just amazing. I want everyone to know who's listening or not, that we have a city manager who is proactive and reactive and who will listen. And I've never actually walked for someone in an hour and a half in this city. And when I showed her things, she actually knew things, and that it actually surprised me. So I just want to give her kudos for spending time with me and to listen and so forth. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't walked the city with her, request to walk the city or your area or whatever with the city manager and show her your concerns, because she's very, very, she listens and she takes notes, and it's just amazing. So moving on, a few more things. I want to tell the city, please report graffiti, other stuff you see, the code enforcement around the town. We only do our part in helping the city to make it better, and just do your best that you can. I want to thank the police for everything you do. You're everywhere and you're taking care of business and so forth. DPW, you're trimming trees all along the Pinole Creek. You're in the parks, you're just everywhere. I really appreciate it. I want to tell the citizens to just report things you see to the city manager, to the city council, and be proactive. Few more things here. Cameron Desai, you know you're one of my favorites, as well as some council members, and no, you're not racist, and I can't believe people come to council meetings and point fingers and call you names. I want you to know that you've been a catalyst. You and Devin Murphy and Anthony Tave, you brought vitality to the council. And you know what? This is why people are getting engaged. And I really appreciate everything you've done for the council and moving forward. Whether you run or don't run, you made an impact for the city and the youth that now follow everything that's going on in this city. As I told the city manager, get the youth involved, get the school involved, because that's where our city lies. And there's so much more to come, but council, you voted wisely and you elected, you appointed a city manager who will get things done, and you're gonna see the fruits of that labor really soon. And thanks for hearing my comments.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
Anthony Vosbrink.
Mr. Vosbrink.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
My name's Anthony Vosbrink, and I appreciate it that you, the city councilor and mayor, would extend me the same courtesy as you did the last gentleman by having 1.5 different comment sections, because he wasn't informed, aware, or educated the processes and procedures of the city council meeting. But as well as in that last comment I made earlier, according to the time clock, I don't know who's setting it or running it, I was cut off about 11 seconds before my 3 minutes is up. So someone ought to look into that too. Under the Brown Act speaking, I would like to also mention that the city council and mayor has a public responsibility to listen with all ears and all eyes, not blind eyes and deaf ears, to all public comments made, and that they have the power, we have the right, that they can and should take each public commenter, be it in the chambers or phoning in, to take it upon themselves as a serious input to the city council and mayor. And that's been a better part of half of the problem in the past with regard to transparency and building relationships, engagement, and communication with the city and the public. If you want to raise taxes or float a bond, you know, you have to look at all things considered. And for example, anytime with me and some other people I know and that come to the dais or chime in at the meetings, we don't get a response. You seldom at all say we're going to have staff investigate this or that, as well as and or under the Brown Act to schedule it for future agenda or future discussion consideration. So that being said, I think you people need to back up and look where you came from to move forward. That being said, I'd like to address two major items. One is with the situation at Bayfront Park again. They finally found the resident that unfortunately lost his life the other day floating out in the Delta, but he did have an incident at Bayfront Park, okay, with his kayak. His name is Tito Mendensi, a Filipino-American gentleman, but we never heard anything on the news or even the police department. When we asked them at Menchie's what happened, they had no clue. They said, oh, they found his kayak all broken up, but they didn't find the gentleman. No, they got it backwards. The gentleman was found last week before the Menchie's meeting, floating by the C&H sugar factory. And thank God that, sadly that it happened, but that would relate to our request that we have better lighting, LED light poles, like 2 of them at the corporate, overseeing the corporation yard outside of the corporation.
Thank you, Speaker. Next speaker, please.
That concludes public comment.
Okay, bringing it back to item 14, adjournment. I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Sasai.
Thank you, Mayor, and many folks in the community knew her very well. Last month, we lost one of our Pinole residents, who was Tita Pearl Parmley Cabrera. She is somebody who, of course, was a resident here, but also was a member of our local St. Joseph Church, and known by many, loved by many. And I want to take a moment to honor her and just read a few words that one of our community leaders, Sonia Delin, had written about her when she passed away. Tita Pearl dedicated her life to preserving, celebrating, and elevating Filipino food, culture, and community in the Bay Area and beyond. Through her tireless advocacy, mentorship, and love for bringing people together around the table, she helped shape generations of chefs, storytellers, and culture bearers, while reminding us that our Filipino food is memory, identity, and home. She is a co-founder of the Filipino food movement, found the pathway into the U.S. for Filipino foods such as Mamacita. She's a community stalwart, one of the original Pistahan organizers, a pioneer of the Filipino American Chambers of Commerce, Filipino ube and coconut advocate, and a force during COVID-19 in feeding first responders, organizing restaurateurs, and helping entrepreneurs build their local food businesses. Her legacy lives on in the countless lives she touched, businesses she ushered, in the community she nurtured, and the pride she inspired in Filipino culture. She is somebody that knew me before getting elected to the Pinole City Council in 2022, and somebody when I was inaugurated as mayor during my time. She was somebody who provided food for the community. Not only that, when Attorney General Abanta came by to inaugurate me and swear me in, I remember she set aside food not only for him in a bag, but also for his mom, Tita Cynthia Abanta. And so that was the person she was. She was caring, and she was somebody who we should be honored that she was a Pinole resident and leader. And so with that being said, I just knowing her, she never always had all the answers, but she always just made things better. So I want to request the Pinole City Council tonight adjourn in the memory of Tita Pearl Parmley Cabrera. Thanks.
Thank you for those kind words. I did know Tita Pearl and do always enjoyed our conversations. So she's going to be missed. We're going to go ahead and adjourn to the regular city council meeting. Did anybody else have any words? Okay. We're going to adjourn to the regular city council meeting of September 1st, 2026, in remembrance of Amber Schwartz and Tita Pearl. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor.